It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He's Vice President Trump. I'm President Putin. It's the Friday show. Vice President Trump, how are you? And they call that a good day.
One of the things I woke up to, because for me, so many things happen, and my sleep schedule, I have to keep. I cannot switch it. It's just and so I was asleep during the press conference, which I heard was delayed and people weren't happy.
You could sleep for 10 minutes a day and still miss a ton of stuff.
No, that's a great point. So I wake up and I'm thinking other stuff. When I first woke up, I went, okay, all right, okay, that's Thursday night. All right, yeah. First thing, and it's like, all right, I got a bunch of stuff I got to do tomorrow and everything. Oh, man, the press conference. So immediately I want to see the reaction on Twitter. Yeah. That's the first thing.
Right.
X.
Yeah.
X.
Right, yeah.
And the first thing I see, and I don't know who the person is, but it was like, wow, Joe Biden just killed it today, and the MAGA world is absolutely paranoid now. And it was like, wow, it must have been bad.
Signed Hunter Biden.
The person just got trashed with the remarks. Here's the thing that's on my mind right now. I mean, there's 50 things that you and I are going to talk about, but just concerning the press conference probably. But this was really the last two questions asked to him, and the reaction from the far left on this. Here we go.
You earlier explained confidence in your vice president.
Yes.
If your team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump, would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that.
Mr. President,
okay.
This ends tonight's press conference. Thanks, everybody. This concludes.
Respectfully, earlier you misspoke in your opening answer. You referred to Vice President Harris as Vice President Trump. Right now, Donald Trump is using that to mock your age and your memory. How do you combat that criticism from tonight?
Listen to him.
This concludes tonight's press conference. Thank you.
Now, that made no sense, the last thing, but it was what he said before and the reaction. For example, David Axelrod weighed in on the big boy press conference, and it was interesting because we've been questioning why they were using that terminology, and all of a sudden yesterday it was, why are they using that terminology?
Yeah.
They make him sound like he's a little kid that, okay, we're going to give him the test to see if he can be an adult.
Right.
I mean, it's in itself, when I first heard big boy, I thought it had to come from a Republican. And it didn't.
No, it came from his people.
Yeah. And I said, well, they must have just picked it off and decided to jump on it or use that just to be sarcastic. It's like, no, they're the ones that came up with it. And then there was a number of videos on there showing how many times they used it this week. The big boy press conference, the big boy.
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing that?
Oh, my gosh.
But David Axelrod weighed in, knocking the president's team for shielding him from bad news. If what he said at the end of the presser is true, it sounds like Biden's team has not been very candid with him about what the data is showing. Axelrod noted the age issue is huge and potentially an insurmountable concern. By the way, it's not the age issue.
Yeah.
It's the questions of his cognitive abilities But then we go to, let me find it here this is Rachel Maddow. All right, here we go.
I think that what Nicole points out about the reality about polling numbers for incumbent presidents and the real history of that versus what President Biden said, which was not actually factually accurate as far as I can tell, that's worrying because it makes me worry that the president is being given information about his political standing that may not be based in reality.
Wow.
Well, there you have it.
So what they're saying is, what they're communicating is, the president isn't in charge.
Right. Because when he says, nobody's saying that, it's like, wait a minute, what are they telling him? What are they telling him? Did Jill Biden come up with the big boy press conference? You're going to have a big boy press conference. Aren't you excited? We've sent out invitations. Wow. I mean, it just keeps getting worse. The fact that they were celebrating this as a victory tells you how bad it was.
First thing that you and I started talking about in our pre-show meeting, which normally is just having a couple of beers and shots, but it wasn't today.
I went straight for the tequila. I didn't have beers. It was very different today.
I've rejected the beer in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Okay, the beer's gone. The beer's been gone.
It is now.
But first thing I said, wow, Chris Coons was right. The message was being sent out. Look, and we had played the audio yesterday. He's co-chair of the campaign. He said, look, don't set the bar too high for Biden. You know he has a stutter. And we're like, oh, my God, you're kidding. And this is before the debate. We played the audio cut before the debate, before the press conference, and we played it last night. Mm-hmm. But that's where we're at right now, because you saw that effort from the people, from the Democrats that wish him to stay in, that was saying, oh, he passed the test. He passed the test. I love the CNN focus group of Democrats where it's like, oh, he did a wonderful job, wonderful job. There are millions of people that are delusional or deny reality all the time. Otherwise, Trump would be up 70-30, and then you'd still have 30% of people who are out there saying, no, we think that he's doing a wonderful job.
Yeah.
You're always going to have those Democrats. You're always going to have, that's always going to exist. But that seemed to be what was promoted, at least on social media, and the narrative, well, he did good enough to stay in for a couple of days, as if this is something that the public is looking at as a day-to-day thing, that we're not really sure where he is, and maybe today he'll prove to us. He hasn't in the last 2 weeks. Maybe today, something. All right, it wasn't a horrible performance. Weak? Yes. Horrible? No. And therefore, he's going to stay in. Well, this is just going to create more of a civil war inside the Democratic Party. The New York Times isn't going to change. Then again, they might. Who knows? No. But I don't think they're going to change. The Obama bros, by the way, I did not coin that term.
Yeah.
The media has. They're still, they want him out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
now Obama is in control behind the scenes.
Well, maybe of the Democrat narrative, but not of the White House.
No.
Right.
Just the push of the campaign.
Yeah. So it's
the nudging.
And you had Jim Himes, by the way, the top Democrat on the House Intel Committee. We'll have this audio coming up in a little bit after it said he's got to go.
Yeah.
And so it was.
Well, because it and you look at some of the quotes too. One of the quotes that came out was, "It doesn't matter if he was pumped full of adrenaline tonight. He can't do that for another 4 months. It doesn't matter how you want to rate tonight, the big boy press conference. He can't keep that up for another 4 months." And they know this. When what's-his-name over at Politico was writing about talking to some of the delegates, and it's funny because I said, it was earlier this week, could you get to the convention and the delegates get up there and some of the delegates do a Ted Cruz from 2016, vote your conscience. And that's exactly what one of the delegates told this reporter from Politico when he was talking to them. And if that's the case, what does their convention look like? Where does it go? I asked the question, is he going to get booed when he's on stage Thursday night? How do you make that work? Because by then, they're going to be angry, because if he's going to take the stage Thursday night, there's no way he's out of the race. He's in, and they know that. It is the deal. It is the ironclad moment that he is not stepping down. And they're going to be mad.
I think it was Jen Psaki who said, well, that Harris would be the best, but the racism and she's afraid that racism and sexism will keep her from winning. Well, we know that it's well documented that Kamala Harris blamed the racism and sexism of the Democratic Party for her early out. But it was interesting because I saw talk show host Eric Erickson wrote yesterday after it. He goes, I continue to notice a pattern. The most forceful calls to oust Biden come from white liberals, and the most forceful defenses of Biden come from black liberals. And then he had one of the commentators on CNN. He goes like this on CNN tonight. You and I talked about that already. The accusation was coming. We talked about this a couple days ago, that it's the white elite liberals that want Biden out. They're the ones that are driving all of this. But if that is the case, we know that it's race and climate change still for the Democrats. And so that will turn into a political race war inside the party also. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Here's a quote from that I was alluding to a moment ago. Wall Street Journal had this, and they say a well-connected Democratic donor added, even if he's full of adrenaline for one night, he can't sustain it for 4 months. What's next? The fallout is real, and it keeps getting worse.
Well, the buildup of this has been there since 2020 when he was in his basement.
Mm-hmm. We've been watching it.
And so this has been, the public has noticed this for 4 years.
Yep.
And the narrative coming from many Democrats is this is just recently new, and we can't make a judgment based on the debate. Now, you do have some Democrats coming out going, no, it was way before the debate. Clooney's op-ed piece, destroyed that.
Yeah.
And then you had,
Chuck Todd?
Chuck Todd, yeah. Chuck Todd saying 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I got a couple of my buddies, it was the first thing that they told me. They said, wow, that Chuck Todd thing.
Yeah. Right.
Chuck Todd's known for 2 years and never said a word.
Well, here's
it's
the
like,
thing.
Well, we've all known.
They weekended Bernie's this thing and thought they could till the end. They didn't care, because what they thought was, and it was very clear, we've been asking the question, who's in charge? Who's making the calls on all these things? And when Austin was out, and then they had the attack on the Iranian proxies, and it was like, wait a minute, where's the president stepping to the podium on these moves just to make a small, very quick, brief statement? Here's what happened. Here's what we did. No questions, and then move on. That wasn't happening. But we kept asking the question, who's in charge? Who's in charge? Well, they, again, clearly, this was a concerted effort, including the liberal media, to hide all of this. They've known it. And now it's evident. Now it's very clear. Now it's been proven that they've known it. They can try and say we had no idea, but of course they did. Only the ones who are being intellectually honest, if you can even use those words, if they even apply here, are the ones that are saying, like Chuck Todd and Clooney. I mean, it is really, right now, this is proof of the propping up of Joe Biden as a candidate from the beginning. They knew they couldn't get away with it. They had COVID for cover in 2020. And then what do? Well, you send them home. You send them to the beach every weekend. You send them to get ice cream and ask them, what's your favorite flavor? But his answer is Vice President Trump. It's my favorite ice cream flavor.
I just love this because this is catastrophe for the Democrats as Biden avoids catastrophe.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
But again, it's also because of the lower bar that is now set for this president.
Right.
He's so bad that if he's just bad, that's a great day.
Right. Right.
And the public doesn't see it that way, but that's one of the narratives being thrown out by some Democrats.
Well, even
who want him to stay in.
And we have to be, very clear. Some of the so-called journalists at Wall Street Journal are not like the editorial board.
Right.
And we have questions lately, in fact, of the editorial board. But there was, there were a couple of things that showed, and I'll have to get it here. I don't have it in front of me, but I did bookmark it. And there were one of the articles that they wrote about it, about the press conference, he had a couple of small flubs. No. Referring to Vice President Harris as Vice President Trump. Here's the difference. Not correcting it. Not going back and correcting it. And the media was on it in that room later in the press conference. So sorry, and I don't have the person in front of me who wrote that at the Wall Street Journal. I get it. But sorry, trying to dismiss this as, it wasn't that bad. No, it was bad, and it was further proof that he's not fit.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Keep your engine humming in the heat this summer by keeping up with preventive maintenance. Think your PM is complete after your oil is changed? Think again. There's grease, transmission fluids, and gear oil to consider too. Transmission fluid, for example, prevents wear of gears, bearings, and bushings, protects against corrosion, and acts as a heat transfer fluid. You may not think about this every time you get behind the wheel, but as soon as it's not doing its job, you'll notice. Misapplication of transmission fluid can mean reduced fuel economy and abrupt or hard shifts if the static friction is too high. It can also cause sluggish operation at low temperatures if the viscosity is too high and leaking through seals if viscosity is too low.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. Well, I'll say this night again is just like every night has been when he's, done, when Biden's done anything, that it really doesn't matter what I think. It's what Democrats think right now.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what I think and what you think about President Biden. But right now, when it comes to his cognitive abilities and when he's going to run, this is strictly up to the Democrats. And I'll even say never Trumpers who have, said that they would have voted for him in the past and did vote for him instead of Trump. Mm-hmm. Looking at the well-known never Trumper, S.E. Cupp, who wrote, "I'm sorry, but this was not a president in command. This was a man whose sentences trailed off, who mixed up names, who admitted to needing to pace himself, who complained that his staff overscheduled him, who rambled, who at times sounded like Uncle Rico reliving his glory days, and who is in deep denial about his ability to do 4 more years or beat Trump. The stakes are simply too high."
It's over. For people like that, there's no converting them back and getting them back on your side. There's no way to rebuild this.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll continue our analysis of the whole Biden thing, but it's the Friday show, so we've got to make sure that we get other news in there.
Yeah, right.
Other news, especially if it relates to something that we have said for the longest time, and this is about liberalism today in the Democratic Party, and that is one of the failures of the Democratic Party is identity politics and the victim-oppressor narrative that they've been carrying on. And we have said the future of the Democratic Party, if they don't change, is not going to get stronger. Because if your entire goal is to divide, then yesterday's victim or yesterday's hero of the oppressed becomes the oppressor.
Yep.
We said a ways back, well, she won in 2018, AOC, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We said way back then, eventually AOC will become the oppressor.
Yeah.
It's starting. There it is. Democratic Socialist abandon AOC.
Uh-oh.
The Democratic Socialist of America's National Political Committee withdrew its pledged endorsement of AOC on Wednesday. The group said the New York Democrat failed to meet the conditions that the Democratic Socialist of America tied to its endorsement, a majority of which centered around Israel and anti-Semitism. Now, as we know, she is anti-Semitic, but she pretends not to be.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Same as we've accused the president
right.
of being. And it's because, according to the group's July 10th press release, one of the key actions that did AOC in was her decision to host a June 10th panel on anti-Semitism with Jewish leaders. They called it a deep betrayal for those who have risked the welfare to fight the Israel apartheid and genocide. So since she decided that, okay, I'm getting too radical, let me meet with Jewish leaders, her doing that meant she is now an oppressor.
Yep.
And no longer a hero to the oppressed. She is now an oppressor. She oppresses.
Yeah, listen, it was always going to happen. But now she'll have more time in her hands to learn things like, what a garbage disposal is and things like that. Maybe get back to her love of bartending.
She doesn't do those videos anymore. Remember when she sits on a Friday night drinking wine, and remember she was in her apartment one time and she was drinking wine and putting together something from
Well, at least they're not
IKEA
making the news anymore. Yeah, I don't know if she's making the videos and they're not making the news, which, by the way, would be worse. If you're making them and nobody listens.
All right, here we go. Back to Biden. This is the head of the DNC, James Harrison, making the point that Republicans have made, we have made, you made specifically right after the debate.
It was that night. Yep.
Here it is, making the same points. That's why I said it's got nothing to do with my opinion on this. I mean, we give it. Everybody knows what our opinion is, but
our opinion was long before the debate.
Right. And so this is, where the Democrats are going. But listen to this, because this is almost word for word what we have said. Here we go.
If you're standing up, if you're a Democrat right now and you're standing up and you're saying that Joe Biden is not fit to run for office and therefore should not be in office in January, you're saying he's also not fit to be president right now. What the hell are you doing?
Told you.
They're making the points for the Republicans.
This is their conundrum, and I've said that repeatedly.
And
that you can't say one without the other. The two go hand in hand. You can't say he's not fit to run, but he's okay to be president until January 20th of next year.
We know that technically, I guess when you look at it, that Biden is viewed as the head of the Democratic Party, but actually he's the head of the DNC.
Yes.
He's the head of the Democratic National Committee.
Right.
He is the one that sets the direction.
Right.
And he's saying that any Democrat, because that's who they're trying to convince,
right,
any Democrat who says Biden should not run is saying he's not fit to be president now. Trump people, are you awake? Did you make an ad out of this yet?
Well, because my question is, does he know what he said? It's like there's zero self-awareness here. You're basically telling everybody, oh, that's right, he's not fit for office. We have to consider that now. Because this has been so chaotic. They're running around. There has been zero self-awareness because it's so chaotic. And now the head of the DNC is saying, guys, here's what you're saying. And how many are going to look and go, oh, my gosh, our problem is worse than we even thought. Because we still believe he's not fit to run, which means we believe he's not fit to serve now. Oh, man. It's not going to be a good day. It's not going to be a good month. It won't be a good 4 months. They're really having a horrible year.
Because this isn't going to change anywhere. After the press conference, here's Democratic representative from Connecticut, Jim Himes, who is, I believe, the lead Democrat on the Intelligence Committee.
But the hard reality is, and I'm far from the only Democrat who believes this, that the numbers, the trajectory, what Americans feel in their bones right now suggest not only that Joe Biden would lose this race, but that he or we would lose the Senate and the House. And the stakes are so high that we need to set aside that loyalty and that poetry and that romance and the charge of the Light Brigade, and we all go down together in favor of some really hard-nosed analysis.
Yeah.
Andrew Bates, who is a Biden staffer, wrote this. We need to look at both sides, correct? We always look at both sides.
That's what we do.
Andrew Bates. To answer the question on everyone's mind, no, Joe Biden does not have a doctorate in foreign affairs. He's just that effing good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this is, again, they're having to play cleanup every time he's in public. Every single time he's in public.
Oh, you saw what happened then. Well, yeah, you do, because we had the discussion. You were telling me it before. I acknowledged that I saw it, that the campaign during the debate basically put out, and it wasn't Joe Biden, because he was not the debate, the press conference, that Joe Biden was still talking. They came out, I know the difference.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
So they responded on X. Trump had put on his social media, on Truth Social, basically mocking Joe Biden for calling the Vice President Trump. And then the president's X account responded to that and posted, I guess, a screenshot of it and said, yes, I know the difference. One is a prosecutor and one is a convicted felon. And then Seth Dillon from Babylon Bee responded to that saying, well, I'm glad that the person who writes your social media knows the difference, which is exactly what everybody was thinking. President's he's not sitting there on X typing that out. Right. We all know that. He's too busy being mentally competent, remember? Yeah.
I decided to go to the Babylon Bee. It's like media who refused to report on Biden's decline, furious that nobody reported on Biden's decline.
Yeah, exactly.
Obama reassures the nation he's still running the country.
That's funny. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, just great.
Yeah, because the problem was a couple of things. So much going on throughout the day. More fallout from the Clooney thing.
Yeah.
And more Democrats on Capitol Hill coming out saying, no, he's got to go. And that fallout continued. And when they delayed the press conference, all the sports fans were angry because it delayed the ESPY Awards. Oh, my gosh. And the entire
You
thing...
mean where Harry is getting the...
yeah.
Oh, I forgot the Pat Tillman Award.
The Pat Tillman Award, yeah.
Oh, the family's furious.
Yeah. And it
about
doesn't
that.
matter that he paid tribute to them in his speech. I read that he did that, and it's sorry. It doesn't change the nature of all of that. And of course, the ESPY Awards have been laughable for quite some time. But you look at the entire equation of the day, and it was okay. Why'd they delay it? Well, they probably delayed it because they wanted to get all that past the evening news cycle.
Yeah, that was the thing that was being talked about beforehand.
Yeah,
they didn't want it to be on the nightly news,
right? And also, his Adderall hadn't kicked in yet. But the entire thing is adding more on top of more, on top of more, on top of more. By the way, I promised to get that Wall Street Journal article, and it was Molly Ball who wrote it. And I just, the first couple of paragraphs actually just had me shaking my head. The president spoke for nearly an hour, answering questions off the top of his head, making some minor flubs. They weren't minor flubs. Because you take it out of context, that assumes you wipe the slate clean. This is the problem that they have, that they're ignoring the cumulative effects.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the second paragraph, she writes, President Biden's Thursday evening press conference hotly awaited as a potential opportunity to once again fall on his face, didn't offer his doubters that satisfaction. Number one, I don't get any satisfaction from a sitting president falling on his face. It's tragic and it's dangerous. And she goes on to write, but nor did it seem likely to quiet his party's growing clamor for him to quit the reelection race that he insisted he remained best positioned to win. Okay, she's right in that regard, but the fact of the matter is that kind of, sweeping that wasn't that bad. You're ignoring the cumulative effect.
Well, and the other thing is she talking about Republican critics of the president or Democrat critics? Because Republicans are happy that there's a narrative out there that you need to give Joe more time. Mm-hmm. They want the Republicans.
Right.
He's the known quantity. Anything else, you don't know what you're getting. You go with the known quantity. He's not going to get any better. Republicans were actually happy that so many Democrats thought that the bar is so low for Joe Biden that they say, well, that's the proof right there. We need to give him more chance. We need to give more chances. He needs to stay in. Republicans are happy about that. They're not angry about that at all. They didn't wish for him to fall on his face.
But using that word satisfaction really got to me because there is no satisfaction here. It has to be proven that he's not fit for office, and it's being proven over and over again, yet he and his son and his wife refuse to stand down.
Yeah. Well, my point is the satisfaction is that Democrats believe that some Democrats believe that he did all right and should stay in, which extends it.
Yeah, right. And who was she referring to?
Yeah. Who was she referring to? Democrat critics or Republican critics? And Republican critics are okay with what happened last night. Mm-hmm. They want to face Joe Biden. He's the known quantity who they know is not going to get any better, as we've said, over the next 4 months. He's gotten worse over the last 4 years.
Yep. But there is no satisfaction that I get. So who are you referring to?
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And then there was this moment last night in the debate.
What concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
There you go.
Yeah.
And the fact is, people might say, well, you forget, my dad will call me my brother's name once in a while, but this isn't a question where the reporter stated Vice President Harris.
Well, he didn't correct it.
Yeah.
And it's, again, this cumulative effect.
Yeah.
Going into it, if nothing had happened till now and he made a couple of flubs like he made tonight, it wouldn't be a big deal.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. What was that from the Wall Street Journal?
All right,
just reading me?
So here's where they get it right. Watching Democrats grapple with the questions about President Biden's candidacy has become some Republicans' new guilty pleasure. I don't know about guilty, but I do get pleasure out of that part of it, watching not just the Democrats, but the liberal media activists who are shocked and seem to have this misplaced anger, and it should be placed squarely at their own feet. They saw this. We know that they saw this, and now they come out and act as if they didn't. That I do get pleasure from. Watching a president fail, a sitting president, I get no pleasure from. None.
Also yesterday, here's his chief economic advisor, Jared Bernstein. Ready for this?
All right.
All right, here we go.
Can you say that he is still the person that you worked with in the White House all those years ago?
I can unequivocally say that, and it's not just based on a couple of days or a couple of weeks or one data point. It's based on a long relationship, as you just said. I was his chief economist when he was vice president, and since then, I have been briefing him on economic reports exactly like this one. Those briefings are frequent. They happen often. Sometimes they're in person. Sometimes they're over the phone. And the guy on the other end of the phone or sitting there in the Oval talking to me about these reports is as sharp as ever.
Now, we must realize Jared Bernstein himself is delusional. We played the audio cut, what was it, about a month ago?
Mm.
He had no idea how money gets its worth.
Yeah.
He had no idea. He was asked the question. It was in a documentary. He was asked a question, why are we borrowing money when we can print it? And he had no answer to the question.
Yeah.
He couldn't. He has no idea about how money gets its worth. He has no idea about printing money. When you do not have an increase, as we've always stated, in the wealth of a nation, both in durable goods and services, because the amount of the money expands, as you know, at that point, with the Fed, completely clueless as to how economics runs, completely delusional.
Right.
No idea. He had to admit, well, I really don't know. It gets complicated.
Yeah, right.
What the hell are you talking? You want scary? That's scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
the clueless leading the clueless.
I think the Republicans should have made a bigger deal of that, but they don't have to, because the president has so many other problems. The other story that came out yesterday, you had, I'll play it here. This is from CNN about the cabinet.
Yeah.
He hasn't had a full cabinet meeting in 9 months. He doesn't see any of these people in person at all.
Right.
Here's part of the CNN report on this.
According to two sources, before cabinet meetings that the president attends, cabinet officials will submit their questions and talking points, key talking points and bullet points that they plan to present to the president in these closed-door meetings. This is how one source described it. They said the entire display is kind of an act. They would come and say, hey, the president is going to call on you about 25 minutes in and ask this question: what are the bullet points that you'll respond with? Now, the White House's defense has been that that is standard practice for any administration. They said in a setting like this, you never want the president to be not aware of what is going to be discussed. They want to also just be mindful of the president's time. But we also spoke with sources from the Obama years who said in the cabinet meetings for former President Barack Obama, those were never this meticulously scripted. According to two sources.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep having a loop problem.
That's, again, further evidence that, and what sitting president is not meeting with his cabinet on a regular basis.
Well, and the thing is, what do you mean in this setting everything has to be scripted? As president, you should have a general knowledge on everything that's going on in the world. If you don't, you've got a problem. Or you can sit there and say, well, wait a minute, I don't know about this. Please tell me about it.
Well, it
doesn't need to be scripted. You can do it ad lib. I do it ad lib.
Well, I'm assuming the president's still getting, because we see the schedule, he's getting daily briefings. What's happening at the daily briefings then?
Because this is Nate Silver, who wrote this here from the CNN story. This is not normal or acceptable for an American president. It sounds like a story from an authoritarian country. Back in Washington, there have been, and this is from the story, back in Washington, there have been clear signs throughout his term of the president being increasingly stage managed with lists of talking points, name of questionnaires, and drawings of where he should walk presented to him by aides ahead of closed-door cabinet meetings that Biden attends. It is customary for cabinet officials to submit questions and key talking points that they plan to present in front of Biden ahead of time to White House aides, two sources with direct knowledge told CNN. The entire display is kind of an act, as that reporter just said from CNN. One of the sources told CNN they would come in and say, hey, the president is going to call you in about 25 minutes and ask this question. What are the bullet points you'll respond with? The second source, who echoed the same description, said when Biden attends cabinet meetings, they are not freewheeling and pretty well orchestrated, and the meetings themselves are infrequent, with one cabinet secretary telling CNN they are uncertain of Biden's condition because they so rarely see him. And everything that you see here now, even the admission, from Rachel Maddow and David Axelrod yesterday, and this is a president coming out and saying, show me there are no polls.
Yeah.
That show him behind, that he believes he's winning. They're now asking the question, liberal Democrats who have been delusional and are pathological liars. We will never forget the judge in that one lawsuit against Rachel Maddow, who said, well, no, you can't charge her with defamation because that's what she does.
Yeah. We all know it's untrue.
Right.
It's a given.
Right. There is no sense that she's going to be telling the truth. But I just love, God, I love that. But they are questioning, is the president not getting information? And the Republicans are just pounding on that, and Democrats are pounding on that. What in the hell's going on? Who's in charge now? Who's actually running it? These are legit questions and more circumstantial evidence is coming out every single day that that's the case.
Well, if Hunter's sitting there, is Hunter intercepting this information? You give the information to me?
That Hunter is the acting chief of staff came from Democrats.
Right.
Not from Republicans.
Right. And so is that what's happening here? Look, going back to the Obama years, we know that international intel was being changed before it got to the president.
Yeah.
So now, in this case, if you're building a wall like Jill Biden and Hunter Biden are doing around this president, of course you're protecting him from the truth.
It's just, this is just so bizarre. It really just is.
No, it
so
is
bizarre right now. Everything that's going
it's
on.
It's surreal. Because
it is.
It's an indication that he has no idea, and more indications, he has no idea what's going on. He's being propped up, has been propped up by the liberal media, by his own party this entire time. It didn't start at the debate. It started in 2020 when they were hiding him in the basement. And now they want to act surprised because they don't want the fallout on them. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. People aren't stupid. We know that you guys believe people are stupid, but they're not. They see exactly what's going on. That's where their anger comes from. Is they actually, in their heart of hearts, they know they're being called out just as well. This is just as much on them as anybody else that's propping him up. I put this squarely, first and foremost, on the First Lady's shoulders. How a spouse can do this is far beyond me. And then beyond that, anybody at an advisory level. What's going on, Hunter? The checks haven't cleared yet? You still need him to be president? This is insane, and we all know it. Anybody denying it is just, you just want to live in this delusional state.
Well, I don't agree with it, but I understand Democrats, well, the ones that are supporting Biden going, we don't believe anybody else has a better chance than him. They understand the situation that they're in.
And that's how bad it is.
That's how bad it is, yeah.
Is that he's the best they got.
Well, but when you have,
but he's not fit to be president now.
But one of the problems with the party is that there's nobody better than Biden. That these Democrats who are supporting Biden believe is because they've gone so far radical left on every single issue. Mm-hmm. They're insane on the issues, and so everybody, Biden always tries to pretend that he's a centrist, but we know he's not. The others don't try to present it that way. They want you to know how radical they are. And the party is radical. You saw it with the vote from 198 Democrats in the House, and then yesterday Schumer making it so it's not going to go any further, that the Democrats want people who are not citizens of the United States voting in elections. That's a radical idea that the vast majority of the public doesn't agree with. They have no problem publicly saying that. Biden, they would try to hide him or just not answer that question or deflect it or whatever. These other Democrats, no, they want you to know. They don't want just American citizens voting in elections.
No.
That's the problem that the Democrats have. People say, well, you've got a ton of people. You've got a ton of competent people in the Republican Party who may differ some on views. But if you go all the way to a Nikki Haley and all the way, through DeSantis, Trump, Rand Paul, everything else, those people are all in the moderate area of where the American public stands on the majority of the issues.
Yeah.
The Democrats are insane. That's why the Republicans have people that even if I disagree with things with Nikki Haley or whatever, or Trump occasionally, or DeSantis or whatever, they're still in the mainstream of thought that the majority of the American public views as sane ideas.
Mm-hmm.
The Democrats don't. That's why they don't have any backups. That's why people go, where's the future?
Well, think about it. The items up for debate within the Republican Party are actual debatable items. Now, we can look at certain things and say, all right, that doesn't work. But you can at least have the debate. On the left, tell me where the debate is. Any dissent will not be tolerated.
The future of the Democratic Party right now, from anybody who might run for public office, is promoting what the American public now has rejected as insane.
Right.
Critical race theory, the radical transgender movement,
anti-Semitism,
defund the police, pro-terrorist, the border is secure,
Yep.
Inflation is transitory. The public rejects it. That's why. Well, who's the future of the Democratic Party? Well, there really isn't any, because the future is the past 5 years of the insane ideas that they've all promoted.
Right.
As we said, I had a conversation last week with someone in New York. You can't stand Trump, who vote for Biden. I say he's too radical, Trump. I go, where's he radical on? Give me one radical issue.
Right.
And there was a couple other people there. They went, this should be interesting. He couldn't come up with one. I said,
right.
Tell me on an issue where Trump is radical.
Right.
Couldn't find one.
Right.
That's the problem that Democrats have, besides the cognitive problems of Joe Biden.
Yep. Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
It's a common road rumor that it's impossible for one-truck owner-operators and even carriers with just 2 or 3 trucks to get freight direct from the source, the shipper. Yet, hard-won experience from untold numbers of owner-operators with authority disproves the notion. Search your home base area and, later, frequent freight destinations to find all the manufacturers, distributors, and other shippers in the area. Once you get that list, ask yourself if those companies know who you are and what you do. If not, you're leaving opportunities on the table. Strive to own your backyard, to build a solid foundation for the business. For many a small fleet, it's the loads outbound from home that are the bread and butter. But you can take that same approach to the destination area, identifying shippers there and getting on the phone to make sure they know who you are and what you do. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm sorry, I just enjoyed what you were saying. He passed the test. He passed the test. He passed the test.
Well, he faced a test, according to the Associated Press.
Yeah.
Here's their headline from the AP. Key, not a conservative news organization. Key takeaways from Biden's news conference: insistence on staying in the race and flubbed names. That's the headline.
Well, that's what's going to come from it, because that's what, I saw that on TikTok. There were a couple of hours after already 8 million views on him, saying Vice President Trump.
And here's their first line. Joe Biden faced a test Thursday that he had avoided so far this year, a solo news conference. Well, he hadn't avoided the tests. Yes, he's avoided solo news conferences, but this isn't, the tests are over. Well, there's a reason he hasn't done them, and we knew that before last night.
Well, that's why the narrative, you and I have always said this, that if the premise is wrong, everything else after the premise may sound correct, but it actually isn't, because the premise is wrong. And the premise is that this all began at the debate.
Yeah.
That's what you're being sold. This happened at the debate, when we know this is something we've been talking about I remember April of 2020, and we said best thing for Biden to do was go in the basement, and he did, remember?
He did.
And we said he's good.
Yep.
Best thing for him to do is just not talk.
Right.
And he went in the base. So this has been around for over 4 years.
Yep.
We all know it.
Yep.
And they're pretending, the narrative is a pretend narrative that we've just recognized how serious this is after the debate, and now he faces a number of tests. No. You failed it.
You failed it. And there's no way around that.
And everybody knows it, and all the information coming out that he's being protected. And these are liberal news sources coming out with it.
Yep.
that he's being protected. He's being isolated. It came out again last night.
Yep.
And then the head of the DNC, the head of the Democratic Party, came out and said, you know what you're saying? You're saying that if he isn't qualified to run, that he isn't qualified to be president right now.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we've been saying that. Yeah. It's like, what?
That's from the beginning, because the two go hand in hand, and there's no way around that fact. And that's the problem that I think this is the conundrum that the party has had all along. Well, I think inside they've been saying that to each other. If you guys keep saying that he's not fit to run, you're saying he's not fit to be president. And we can't do anything about that, because there's no way Kamala Harris and his cabinet pull the 25th Amendment thing. So we have no remedy here.
Observing and analyzing the insanity. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara. Nightly on Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen to our podcast, which is a repeat of our show. So if you listen overnight and you just don't have enough, and you've got to listen over or play it for someone else.
Yeah. Right.
Then
or listen 3 or 4 times.
Then do it.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, people listening to the show, I mentioned last night, maybe it was around this time, maybe it was later, we had a call from Utica, New York. And whenever I hear of, Utica, the Rome, Utica area, I think of a band that I saw, and I mentioned a band that I saw.
Yeah.
Back in, had to be 1980 or 81.
The band is called Mr. Ed, EDD.
Yes, Mr. Ed, EDD. And it was amazing because they had a guy by the name of Monk Rowe who was the puppeteer.
Right.
And they actually did. I think they had some original. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But what I remember is doing Whip It and the Muppets. It's a rock band. I mean, they're kicking butt and the sound is excellent.
Right.
And it's. I don't even know who the Muppets are. Would it be Kermit the Frog or?
Yeah, Kermit's. I don't know which ones they had on display.
Yeah, but and so I checked my email. The gentleman that I saw do that 44 years ago emailed me. He heard about
Monk
it.
Rowe.
Monk Rowe
sent us an email.
Yes, an email.
He writes, "Imagine my surprise. It was my hands inside the Muppets and my voice singing Whip It. The band was Mr. Ed. And yes, I am at Hamilton College in Clinton, New York. Not a professor, but I direct a jazz oral history project that you might find of interest. Keep whipping it good." Monk. Thank you, Monk, for reaching out.
Yeah, thanks, Monk.
It was a great, very pleasant surprise to hear from Monk on that. Because what are the odds that, number one, we would even bring that up? It was a cool memory that you brought up just on the fly.
On the fly, yeah.
And then Monk happened to be listening in that moment. So thank you, Monk. We greatly appreciate it. That's and what a cool experience, that had to have been. What a fun thing to do.
Some of the best shows I've ever seen have been in small clubs.
Oh, yeah.
They really have.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, rock, not that the technology isn't there. I mean, you go see a Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and it's, it's still powerful in a big arena. But the first time I saw Trans-Siberian, for example, was at the Bronco Bowl.
Yeah, right.
It's the first place I saw Trans-Siberian. And it's a much smaller place. What do they fit? About 3,000 maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
And it was just a very, very, very small stage where I saw them.
Yeah.
But still, that's one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because you got to see that up close. Not that they're still not great now, but still the bands that the greatest shows I've ever seen have been in clubs.
Yeah.
And bands that I walked in not knowing who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, so it's not like you heard your favorite cover song. And I've been a fan of the band for 20 years, and, man, it was great seeing it.
Yeah.
It's the bands like that I walked in that were so unique at that time, and Mr. Ed was one of them. And, they never hit, like, national fame or anything like that,
Right,
but regionally they were, like I said, a big band, and there was a buzz about what they did in their show. So, Monk, thank you so much for reaching out.
Thank you.
That blew me away because
Yeah.
when you do radio, people are listening.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a part of you shocked when something like that happens. When you bring up a small incident of your life, and all of a sudden you get the response, and you're like, wow.
Well,
we actually do people are actually listening to the show. Wow,
and we've had
amazing.
We've had some fairly notable people, I guess, that have done that and reached out, and some we've talked about, others we haven't. Scott Rasmussen, a terrific pollster, his people were listening, and then that led to having Scott on the show. Back when Tom DeLay was basically ending his run in Congress, someone at his office wrote us late one night. But when Monk reached out, it was something special because it was about a very different kind of experience, and it's really cool to know that he was out there listening right at that moment to hear that. So thank you, Monk. That's cool. And I had the song "Whip It" in my head since I read the email yesterday, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all.
When I also worked at Stage One, and yes, Stage One was the club that was owned, not fully. It was Harvey and Corky, but it was the club that was owned by Harvey Weinstein.
Mm-hmm.
So just so people know that.
Yeah.
Great times there, though. I saw some great bands regionally there. So
yeah,
but all good. All right, you ready?
All right.
I want to play. Oh, this is the RNC is now. There's music behind it, and it drives us crazy when we hear music behind it. But they're doing it as a political ad.
Right, it's an ad, so
Right.
you just have to take that into
RNC had this out last night online and said the fraud Democrats have perpetuated on the American people is a scandal unlike anything seen in a generation. These crooks lied to our faces as they told us not to believe our lying eyes. They must answer for it. And then this video.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
This is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on.
This guy's tough. He's smart. He's on his game. His mental acuity is great.
This is a very sharp president.
This is a man that's on his game.
President Biden is absolutely fit.
There's not a problem.
He's sharp, he's fit, he's always answering questions.
He is on the ball. He was sharper than anyone I've spoken to.
He is sharp. He is on top of things.
There's no doubt in my mind that the president is mentally fit for office.
Biden has proven himself to have a strong memory.
He's completely mentally sharp.
He's at the top of his game.
And
Janet Yellen talking about anybody being at the top of their game is rich.
Understand that the Republicans haven't even started using that as a weapon yet.
Right. Yeah.
And I was reading here. This is again, what's to come. The Republicans next week. I haven't heard yet about any planned major protests, but the DNC editorial board of the Wall Street Journal talking about what's going to happen, what the plans are from the radicals, specific plans. Democratic Party divisions are all over the airwaves these days, but will they spill into the streets? That's the hope of left-wing groups planning a summer of resistance at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago from August 19th through the 22nd. The most detailed protest plans for Chicago come from Behind Enemy Lines, a self-styled anti-imperialist organization with a small but hardcore following that endorses militancy. In recent weeks, a group has issued calls on Instagram to make 2024 as great as 1968 and come to Chicago this summer and shut down the DNC. Anti-Israel groups, including Palestine Action U.S., have promoted this campaign on social media. Behind Enemy Lines has demanded that Chicago cancel the DNC. By the way, many in Chicago and many in the Democratic Party would like to be able to cancel the DNC.
Oh, they would love that. Yeah. Please go somewhere else.
You may have more support than you think.
Yeah.
And have asked supporters to escalate for Gaza every Friday until the convention to make life miserable for the people inviting these criminals to Chicago. Its suggested targets include the media, the compliant media, Mayor Brandon Johnson, the governor, Cook County Democratic Party headquarters, and even a local brewery that it views as supportive of the DNC. If the DNC proceeds as planned, the group says it has a backup plan to mobilize the broadest possible opposition over a 2-week period that begins on August 9th. Week 1 will be focused on a mass outreach, including door knocking, agitating car to car on the Chicago L train, and other efforts to recruit and mobilize protesters. Behind Enemy Lines says the second week will be focused on protesting the DNC, and its plans are not peaceful. Have you ever thrown down against the Chicago police yet? It asks on its website, while urging students and youth to be bold and audacious, take the front lines, and yes, take police beatings and arrests, make bruises from Chicago police batons. The 2024 back to school fall fashion. That's a quote from the website.
Wow.
Black Lives Matter Chicago, Students for Justice in Palestine, Students for a Democratic Society. What? The SDS?
Huh.
Did someone spike my coffee with acid? Is this a flashback? The SDS? What's going on here? The SDS? Where am I? Is time travel possible? But the SDS and others plan to protest as part of a coalition to march on the DNC. Organizers told the Chicago Tribune that they will be within sight and sound of the convention and protest with or without permits. That doesn't go far enough for Behind Enemy Lines, which says it has some big political differences with their approach, chiefly a desire to ramp up the chaos. The left has rightly condemned the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol, but Democrats have been less outspoken in condemning leftist efforts to interfere with the 2024 democratic process. Anti-Israel protesters broadcast their intentions to shut down the June 27th presidential debate in Atlanta and were only stopped when police vastly outnumbered the police that were vastly outnumbered were stopped only when police vastly outnumbered them. Okay, that's a quote. As Palestine Action U.S. reported on its social media account. It's hard to know how much of a protest rhetoric is bluster and how many people will follow Behind Enemy Lines in Chicago, but the 2020 anti-police riots took a toll on officer morale in Chicago. As of July 10th, the police department had fewer than 11,600 officers, although it is a budget for nearly 12,750. The CPD will have help from state and federal law enforcement during the convention, and it sounds like it's going to need it. I saw that they're clearing out the homeless. A couple of stories on that.
Yeah, of course.
Before the before the DNC, but now this is going to be the weekend, and you're going to have the Civil War is going to continue with the Democratic Party over this weekend. Then is Monday the next interview he has?
Is that the day of the NBC interview?
I think so, Monday, yeah. But then
then
Monday, though, the RNC starts.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, except for social media, is that going to be a time when Biden may make some prepared speeches on what's going on at the RNC, but nothing else? Will they go quiet? Will they say, okay, let's just go quiet here for a week? Because this isn't working for them.
Yeah.
And if they believe that last night was a victory, that's going to continue the civil war inside the Democratic Party. And so all of a sudden, next week is over, And the week after is when they're supposed to have the virtual vote. Where's that going to go? The virtual vote to nominate Biden.
Yeah. So this from NBC New York, I find this interesting because I was wondering, all right, so NBC News anchor Lester Holt will sit down with President Joe Biden on Monday for an exclusive one-on-one interview in Austin, Texas. The full interview will air in its entirety, really, during a primetime special that evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. Special will also stream at 9 p.m. on NBC News Now. Yeah, in its entirety?
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, I guess this goes full circle now. I just got this from one of our great listeners, Todd, who said, wow, I saw Mr. Ed several times in Geneva, New York.
All right.
In 81,
yeah.
Which is where I started my radio career. It's like, come full circle. All right.
It is a small world.
Yeah, if you're listening to the beginning of the hour, we're talking about a band I'd mentioned yesterday that I'd seen. And the guy who I always thought was the leader of the band.
Yeah.
Heard it and got back to me.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Isn't it?
Thank you, Monk, and thank you, Todd.
Yeah.
Very
thanks.
cool. Very cool.
All right. We have more hours coming up and a ton of stuff to bring up. The inflation numbers, we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
What Chris Matthews, has he been resurrected? What happened?
I don't know. They're pulling him out of retirement.
What Chris Matthews thinks, we'll get to that and more.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hello, welcome to a Friday. So the question is, can the Democrats become united? That's really the question.
The answer is no.
Well, who would do that? Who could unite the Democrats now? Who's the one that could say, all right, look, we need to get this all together? Can the New York Times, can the Washington Post, can the number of people that have come out from the Democratic Party saying, no, he shouldn't run, are they going to come out and say, look, we were wrong? And will that be credible to the American public?
I don't think Gandalf the Grey and Harry Potter together could do it, quite frankly. Sorry, didn't mean to step into wizardry there. It happens to me on weekends sometimes.
This is the problem, that it's a civil war inside the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And you have, as Chris Coons said, look, don't put the bar too high. He's the co-chair of the campaign. Don't put the bar too high. We played the audio cut yesterday. And they didn't. And the supporters, Joe Biden did just an incredible thing on foreign policy, the best foreign policy speech ever in the history of American politics. Of course, that's what they're doing. They're way over exaggerating what he did. But it's almost to the point, if he doesn't fall over on his face, that it's a success.
Well, it's like me looking at my lawn every time I mow it after I am done, and I look at my lawn and I say to myself, my inside voice, not my outside voice, that this is the best lawn mowing job that has ever happened in history. Number one, I know it's not true. And number two, it means nothing. And it doesn't matter if it makes you feel better. But the problem is the question would be is who are they convincing? And the answer to that is absolutely no one.
How do you unite the party is one question. How do you convince independents? How do you convince the American public that has known for a couple of years the cognitive decline of Joe Biden? They know that it's there. How do you get those people back in 4 months?
I don't know. There is no path. There isn't a path.
Now, the only thing is, if Republicans blow it. There was an article in National Review said, Trump, stop calling Biden a vegetable.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that because
at best you might be only connecting with some of your hardcore base. You're not winning anybody over with that kind of comment.
Right. You can say there's been a tremendous cognitive decline. Actually do what he did in the debate, which was he seemed to have sympathy towards him and going after, because this is the thing that you do. If you're Trump, everything you do, him doing that is not going to affect the election. But it's the fact that what your focus should be, because I think that the Republicans and Trump, especially knowing Trump over the last couple of weeks, had done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Overall. Yeah. And for Trump, it's not saying anything.
Yeah.
And I've got probably more. Well, the best thing is Trump isn't saying anything. Trump isn't blowing it this time.
Mm-hmm.
And, don't blow it. If you know you're going to get the win, still act as if you're 20 points down. But the correct thing would be, it's the entire machine of the Democratic Party. Even, you can say he's a puppet president.
Right.
You can say things like that. Look, he's a puppet president. Look at all the information coming out. Look at this. The cabinet, he didn't meet with the cabinet. And however many times Trump met with his cabinet members, you bring out notes, pre-think. No, we went in and if I didn't know something, I asked them. If they brought something up that I didn't know about, I go, wait a minute, I don't know about this. Yeah. What's going on? I've got no problem.
Why don't you expand on that for me?
Right. And so
for the benefit of everybody here, expand on that. You don't even have to go into, you have a conversation. By the way, you should be. It makes me wonder about the daily briefings. What is he getting on the daily briefings? You did it. You came to the meeting all by yourself. What's going on? In the daily briefings, what is he being told? What is he not being told? What does he comprehend?
Ice cream.
Ice cream, Mr. President. I brought you some ice cream. And by the way, when we say puppet president, no offense to our friend Monk. From the band Mr. Ed.
No, but politically, your attack should be on the things that they talk about me. Tell me one thing I did as president, one issue, one executive order that was based on something that was not constitutional, right, or I didn't have the authority to do so.
Right.
Here you have it, and these are liberal news media reporting it, that now they're worried. You had Rachel Maddow on last night. You have David Axelrod.
Yeah.
Are these people not feeding him correct information? Is he in a bubble? Is his wife and his sons are the ones that directing it? You go to the Daily Beast article, I believe it was, that's the Daily Beast or Axios, I can't remember, that came out and said, the source said that Hunter is the de facto chief of staff.
Right.
That came from liberal. You pound on everything that they were attacking you on.
Right.
But don't name call as to the condition that he has. That's not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
And so, but there's such an advantage. There's so much material that Republicans have not used yet. They're starting to use it, but they're just letting this thing sort of go, which I view mostly what they're doing is correct. When they came back, they said, okay, the Democrats have lied to us. The media lied to us. It's obvious. You do that kind of stuff. And then they went on to the policies of Biden and the policies of the things that the Democrats want to do. And that's why they went right after citizenship to vote. And now they're going to go after Title IX.
Right.
And they were blunt saying, we care about women. Think about this. The Republicans came out and said, we're the party for women. They're not because of Title IX. I didn't see anybody debate that on social media or anywhere else.
Right.
There may be somebody, but it was not that wrote about it, but it wasn't high profile at all.
Right.
When the Republicans can do that, when the Republicans are leading in the polls on who will, but not just the Republicans, when Trump is leading in the polls that he will protect democracy more. You've got every single damn thing in your favor right now. Don't blow it.
That's the kick in the pants to the left that's been saying he's the end of democracy, the Robert De Niro's of the world. By the way, remember that day he gave the press conference, De Niro? He won't leave. He won't leave. I'm sorry, are you talking about Biden and his campaign?
That's a great point. But it's I don't see how it gets better. You know, it's tough. You can't have a crystal ball for these kind of things because it's completely unprecedented in American history. What I do know is I know the identity politics.
Yeah.
You see it already. Well, Kamala Harris can't get elected because people are racist and sexist. That came from Jen Psaki. You know, the Eric Erickson pointing out, he goes, you notice there's a pattern now. It's all the white elite. And that's been talked about, too, when it came out from, and that was from the White House.
Right.
It's basically the elite, the white elite people that are against Biden. And then, as Erickson said, he goes, you notice that it's black Democrats that are supporting Biden, even though the Congressional Black Caucus, the story was out yesterday, they don't want Biden to run.
Right. Yeah.
But it was like, okay, you see black people in the media supporting him and white people in the media, the Democrats in the media, the elitist, as they're calling them now, because now there's a white elite.
Right.
Which is just bizarre to hear this conversation going on.
No, it is. And then the polls that show that Trump would be better for democracy and all of these things. It's like everything is upside down as to how the liberals were presenting everything going in to this rematch.
And then the other radio station that got hit, they agreed to edit the interview with Biden.
Yeah, at the request of the White House or the request of the campaign. Yeah,
I'm telling you this. That's how much radio journalism has changed. I was over a news department. No, you never do. You never consider that.
Yeah.
If somebody said that to you, go to hell. What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean? We suggest you change it.
Because that's going to be a condition going in.
Then again, that's because we weren't political activists.
Right.
When it came to news, it's like you do the news.
Right. Well, because, and then, last hour we were talking about this Lester Holt interview, and I was reading from NBCNewYork.com. And what's interesting is they write in part here, the full interview will air in its entirety during a primetime special Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Though they also write the full interview and unedited transcript will also be available following the primetime special on NBCNews.com. Unedited from what point? From the point that it aired? Because I refuse to believe that NBC is going to put a completely or maybe they are. And if they do, that's a bigger tell. That's a bigger issue right now if they do an unedited. The ABC News interview, it was horrible. The look on his face was just as bad as debate night. If NBC News has indeed decided whatever we record, we're airing. Oh, wow.
Well, that's the problem with the interviews. The interviews is because when you have the press conference, there's a lot of clutter around that. There's people talking. They're all raising their hands. There's a lot of white noise from the reporters that you can hear. In there, people shouting questions. Karine Jean-Pierre, well, that's enough. But when you're doing an interview, it's quiet, and you're focusing on the face. And when you look at the face, Biden was in that interview with Stephanopoulos extremely wide-eyed.
Yeah. His mouth was open. It was just like the debate.
That's the problem. Because there are times that the reporter is asking a long question and the camera's right on his face. He's really bad in interviews. He's bad in press conferences, but he's really bad in interviews.
And one of the reasons is because his confrontational nature. He's defiant at every step. He's always been that way, but in later years, and as his cognitive decline increases, that increases as well. He's been very defiant. He wants to debate even somebody who's on his own side. But now, that's fewer and fewer people. And I'm really anxious to see how that interview comes out.
Is it the preamble to an Obama-Biden war now?
Well,
you're either on Obama's side or Biden's side.
Right.
Because we have the audio cut coming up from Chris Matthews. That's what he brings up.
Yeah.
And
you use the words civil war, was it yesterday or day before?
Yeah.
And it's the perfect way to describe it because that's what's going on here. And it's not anywhere near being over and won't be until election.
Well, the story that Clooney cleared his op-ed piece with Obama.
Right. And Obama gave it the blessing, of course. Yeah.
And so there's
keep in mind how tight they are. Clooney and Obama have been friends for a long time, but since Obama left the White House, I think they live together. I'm not sure, but I could be wrong. They spend an unreasonable amount of time together, according to the media. But no, they're very close.
But nobody's really delved into the fact that this is a civil war going on now, and now it's become Biden versus Obama. I see it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's happened fully yet, but that's the only direction and path I see it going. You either take Obama's side or you take Biden's side. Obama wants him out.
And how far are they willing to go?
And the Obama people want him out.
Right.
And that's why we've always stated when people said, well, Obama's running the White House, we go, no, he's not. You don't understand the dislike between the two.
Right.
Chris Matthews will point it out coming up here in a little bit. We'll have that audio cut coming up. But that's the one thing. That's why this thing's going to get worse because it's not just it's personal.
Yeah.
It's personal for Biden and his family against Obama.
Yep.
And Hillary Clinton, too.
Yep. Wow.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, I've just been seeing Chris Matthews lately on MSNBC after he resigned. What was it, April of 2020, because of harassment charges, inappropriate things being said to.
Well, he in April of 2020, he said that the harassment allegation was highly justified, but it was before that when he resigned. But that's basically why you haven't seen Chris Matthews. And he went on to basically at the end of this, article in 2020, he said that basically I said, to repeat myself, it's inappropriate in the workplace to compliment somebody on their appearance. This is in the makeup chair, and I did it. And so he's claiming all I was doing that sounds like all he claims he was doing is making comments about someone's appearance. But
well, here he is yesterday on the whole Biden-Obama situation.
Or to the great unknown for Democrats. Many Democrats appear willing to take that risk and see what's behind the door. What do you think?
Well, I think we have to look at all the facts, and one of the facts is Joe Biden. He's a fact. This guy has earned his way to this position in life, United States president. He got here the long way. In 1972, he ran against Caleb Boggs, a 3-term congressman, a 2-term governor, a 2-term U.S. senator, and he beat him. He beat him well. And he rode around in a car the next day and was celebrated for having pulled that upset because he put out no television in Wilmington or Delaware. He put out literature the weekend before delivered by volunteers, which was a brilliant piece of literature. John Martilla did it. He is a politician who's been good at it. He's been reelected every time since then in Delaware with pretty healthy majorities. In life, he lost his wife and he lost his daughter, and he found Jill. Now, who's he going to listen to, Jill or George Clooney? I'm telling you, it's personal. He's had the elite, and it's so true about the elite. He is absolutely right about the elite. Look at President Obama. He served for 8 years loyally, and yet Obama backed Hillary Clinton for president and didn't back him. But I hear he never even invited him upstairs. He had a good reason to be resentful, but he isn't. He puts up with it with the elite. But right now, he's got the poor people. He's got minorities. He's got Hispanics. He's going to put out the labor. He's going to hold that base of the Democratic Party, which he will need in November. And I'm telling you, people are going to end up rooting for him in October because he will have a comeback. And in this elite-fashioned attack on him, they're going to pay for it. But in the end, they're going to end up voting for him.
So what's he doing there? He's attacking Obama.
Yeah.
All the rest of the stuff was, yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah. That
right.
That he didn't resent it. That Biden didn't resent the whole relationship or treatment by Obama. Yeah, give me a break on that. Of course he did.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. This is one of the first times I think I've seen this. And Speaker Johnson put this out yesterday. Mike Johnson put this out yesterday. He actually used audio cuts. He used audio cuts in a presentation before the press. And it says, for 3.5 years, Democrats have covered up Biden's cognitive decline. They've intentionally misled the American people. Now, that's beneath the surface right now. The big story is the infighting going on.
Right, yeah.
And like I said, now you're seeing, and I do believe it started with the story coming out that Clooney got his op-ed approved by Obama.
Right.
He ran it by Obama, and Obama said, go for it.
Right.
And remember, this whole all this stuff started even a few weeks before we had the debate at the fundraiser. That fundraiser that Clooney was at, where Obama put his arm around him and took him off stage.
Yeah.
And so when we played that Chris Matthews audio cut, I do think he's lining it out. You've got the Biden family that does not like Obama. They've tolerated each other, but now you think about it. There was Obama taking him off stage. The family was there, everything else.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks later, after the debate, it's Obama leading the charge to get Biden off the ticket.
Right. And his buddy writing a piece in the New York Times, George Clooney.
Exactly. So that's the number one story, but right beneath it, and it's just waiting for this to end. And I don't know, the Civil War, I don't know when it's going to end or how it's going to end, But the Republicans are waiting right underneath going, oh, by the way, they lied to you about this. They lied to you, the media, the Democrats, everything else. And here's Mike Johnson, what he put out yesterday. Here we go.
For 3.5 years have been covering up this glaring problem. The staff in the White House have been covering it up, and so have the Democrats in Congress. Just last month, I brought a couple of examples. Representative Dan Goldman said Biden was sharper than anyone he'd spoken to.
President Biden was nice enough to call me, and I can tell you, this was the day before that interview, I can tell you he was sharper than anyone I've spoken to.
Representative Eric Swalwell said that Biden put many of us to shame with his energy.
As he says every day, watch me, and he puts many of us to shame with his energy.
I mean, there are example after example after example, leading Democrats and noteworthy Democrats on the Hill who have not been in the dark about this. They've been saying things I think most of them understand is simply not true, and they've misled the American people.
Now, I don't know whether he put the edits in after he made that presentation with other members of Congress behind him. He might have done that.
Yeah,
and just stopped it. But I was like, wow, he's using audio cuts.
Yeah.
And so would that be a cheap fake then? Just kidding. You're allowed to do that if you're making a point. He's making a point, and later on he adds the actual audio or the actual video of the other politicians saying it. But to me, that's the beginning of them, of the House, going after Democrat House members by saying, you knew about this and you lied. And think about this. I really haven't heard a response to that allegation from Republicans. It's true. It's a true allegation.
Yeah.
But you hear Democrats fighting back because it's out there now. Again, it's not the lead story.
Right.
The lead story is the civil war going on in the Democratic Party. But right beneath it is, yeah, but you guys are having this civil war because you lied about this for the longest time.
Right.
You pretended nothing was wrong. You knew something was wrong. You called us liars. You said we were peddling conspiracy theories. No, you were doing it. The Republicans are not going to let that go.
No.
They will not. There are times they will let things go that infuriate us. They're not going to let that one go.
Nope.
And you know it because it's Mike Johnson, the speaker, that's focused in on it. And they've been focused in on that very heavily this week, going, don't forget, these same people that are like, oh, how did this happen? They knew.
They knew.
They're lying to you.
And, you know, and that's really, again, one of the biggest stories here. It's not just the clear cognitive decline and the fact that everybody is now, even on the left, recognizing it and admitting it. It's that they're admitting something that they ignored and clearly ignored and they were lying about. You know, so I don't know where it goes from here. I honestly don't know what you do from here. If you do have a civil war between the Biden team and the Obama team, it's not going to go well for the Bidens. But you have to. But Obama's doesn't have the strength to and the influence to go full 25th Amendment.
Yeah, how do they get
so?
Well, and that's when you said that, I understand what you meant by it. But if this makes the Biden family dig in,
yeah,
then the Obama faction loses.
There's no way around that. And so you can put the pressure on. You can have your buddy write a piece in the New York Times, you know, just assuming that it worked, it was going that direction. If Obama's driving that, there's only so much he can do. He can leap tall buildings in a single bound, but he's not Superman. And that's a problem because ultimately you're not going to get Kamala Harris, his cabinet, and all the Democrats on Capitol Hill, or at least enough of the Democrats on Capitol Hill to go along with the 25th Amendment thing. So that's not going to happen.
Speaking of lying, I had a posted yesterday after Swalwell got pretty much beaten up by Ben Shapiro the day before. Swalwell puts out again in a tweet yesterday, stop saying Project 2025. Say Trump's Project 2025. And so I had to post that with the comment yesterday. Well, at least Swalwell is following the red-eye advice for Democrats. If you're going to lie, lie bigger.
Exactly.
We're not advocating lies. We're of course, there's a ton of sarcasm in there, but it's like, yeah, just go ahead. If you're going to lie, lie bigger. Don't say you created 15 million jobs. If you know that can be torn apart easily, say 100 million, 200 million. You created
Exactly.
500 million jobs.
Right.
Lie bigger.
Right.
Doesn't matter. Everybody knows you're lying. So why not lie bigger? Because somebody may say, well, all right, Biden didn't. Come on. He did not create 1 trillion jobs, but he did create 500 billion.
Yeah.
That's
It was only 100 billion.
It's negotiating lies is what they should call it.
Yeah.
Make it real big so when you're called a liar, people will assume, okay, well, it was only half that number, which would still be an enormous lie.
Right.
Oh, my God.
You guys went too big on the lie. Wow.
So it's I don't know where it goes either, but I think the interesting thing that was solidified yesterday when the story came out that Clooney got his op-ed piece approved by Biden or by Obama. Wow.
Yeah.
That was and then you saw it with Chris Matthews last night. That's what's going on right now inside the Biden family. It's not that the Democratic Party wants him out. It's Obama wants him out. And after they there is no love lost between the Bidens and the Obamas, as Chris Matthews pointed out.
Right. No. And that is the problem that I think, that the Obama team, if that's what's going on, has. Which, by the way, in that case, he represents all of the Democrats who want Biden to step down.
And now they're being called. I mean, the narrative now is Obama is the elite.
Yeah.
Obama represents the elite of the Democratic Party.
Right.
That doesn't want hard-working Joe.
Yeah.
To be president again when Joe certainly can handle it because he's earned his way to this particular point.
Right.
That's what Matthews was saying.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the elite, which is Obama. Think about this now. Obama's becoming the oppressor. Obama is not the hero of the victims anymore. Obama is now becoming the oppressor. AOC is becoming the oppressor. We had that story earlier. The socialists have rejected AOC. She's the problem.
Man. Oh.
That's what happens when you practice
identity politics.
Identity politics and the victim-oppressor relationship, and you keep having to expand the victims, you keep expanding the oppressors.
Yep.
In one day, AOC and Obama became the elite oppressors.
No, that's true.
Of ideas and people in the Democratic Party. Because AOC, she won't. They're not satisfied that she's pro-terrorist against Israelis or pro-genocide against Israelis enough. And Obama is the oppressor of the working man's candidate, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What world are we in? We don't need alcohol or drugs.
You don't. You really don't. Just say no, kids. Just say no.
You can get your mind fried naturally.
We'll show you how. I was telling you off the air. This is getting exhausting. I mean, what we do. It's like, please, what is happening? Because it's every single day there's something new to add to it. It is every single day. Monday, a sit-down interview with NBC. What? You have to be smoking crack if you're advising him to... Oh. Wait. Okay. Okay, now I know. Now I know. Yeah. Of course.
Oh, the other thing.
Sorry.
Did you see the Pew Research Biden job approval numbers yesterday?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, it's horrific.
The lowest ever approval in Pew, 32%. 66% disapprove, 32% approve. That's Biden's job approval number. Whites, 70 to 29. Blacks, 45 to 51. 45 disapprove, 51 approve. Hispanics, 66 disapprove, 32% approve. Asian, 61% disapprove, 36% approve. Postgraduates, 51% disapprove, 48% approve. Postgraduate. College graduates, 64 to 35 disapproval to approval. No college, 70 to 28. Here's the one that blew my mind. Men disapprove of the president's performance, 66 to 32. Women, 65 to 32. It's even. He's lost women.
Wow.
Ages 18 to 29, 71 to 27 disapproval. Ages 30 to 49, 69-30. Ages 64 to 50, 64-35. Ages 65 plus, 61 to 37. Democrats disapprove, 37%. Only 61% of Democrats approve of Biden.
Wow. My gosh.
Now, the only flaw to it is it's not registered voters or likely voters, it's adults. But still, the number is mind-boggling.
That's bad. That's horrible.
Yeah, I know. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Coming up on the show, the inflation numbers, really not much changing. Gas prices kept it down a little bit, but basically it was flat.
Yeah.
Because if you saw it, they were saying it was 0.1%. It was actually 0.056%. So
rounded
they rounded
up to
0.1.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So,
And you know, the media early on, after the report came out, was saying this may help the case to lower interest rates. Well, Jerome Powell said it was the day before, in fact. He said one of the concerns isn't just what's going on with inflation, it's also what's going on with jobs.
Right.
And so I don't know what the Fed is going to do. I'm not confident they're going to lower rates or raise rates by the end of the year, but we'll see.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
all across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Good morning. Thanks so much for being here. As always.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, looking at some of the inflation numbers yesterday, a slight improvement, but basically flat if you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons is because energy prices, let me see, let me make sure I get it here. Energy prices I guess if we look at the yellow here, energy prices down. Okay, electricity, because I have it in the yellow, so I believe that's down. Let me just see here. Because energy prices went down, gasoline prices, right?
Yeah.
I can't find it here. I'm trying to find the negatives here in the chart that I have. But if you look at it, for example, all items 3%, food 2.1% or 2.2%, food at home 1.1%. So that's pretty well leveled out, as we've seen.
Right.
But you have specifics in there: juice and drinks up 20.2% year to year, eggs 10.2%, uncooked beef roast 10%, bacon 8.2%, pork chops 7.4%, hot dogs 6.9%, butter 6.9%, baby food and formula 5.6%, dried beans, peas, and lentils 4.8%, sugar 4.8%, olives, pickles, and relishes 4.3%, crackers, bread, cracker products 4.1%, fats and oils 4%, carbonated drinks 3.1%, oranges 3%. So they did everything that's above 3%. Not everything, but I mean they did some of the food stuff that you buy. Food from home up 1%, electricity 4.4%, utility gas services 3.1%. All items taking out food and energy 3.3%. Motor vehicle insurance up 19.5%.
Wow.
This is interesting. Admission to sporting events 15.1%.
Wow.
Care of invalids and elderly at home, 11.4%. Electronic and photographic equipment, 10.1%. Indoor plants and flowers, 9.4%. Window coverings, 8.9%. Cigarettes, 8.9%.
What did you say indoor plants and flowers is?
9.4%.
It's up 9. It cost me that much more to kill plants in my house?
Yes.
Jeez.
Men's shirts and sweaters, 7.6%. Apparel services, 7.3%. Hospital and related services, 7.1%. Motor vehicle repair, 6.7%. Delivery services, well, that's calmed down a little bit. I mean, even though that's way over what the overall inflation is, it was a lot higher.
Well, it's interesting you touch on delivery services here. I've noticed something just anecdotally that certain delivery services are offering certain things now. Where they're offering specials and sales for the month of July or for the week, and there was a big slowdown in having prepared food delivered, like DoorDash, Uber Eats, things like that. And I think a big part of that is, obviously it's a premium. And then eating out in general, eating from a restaurant in general. But in order to do that, you're going to have to pay more if you want it delivered to your door. In fact, I don't remember the last time I got it delivered. It's been a couple of months. And a lot of that has to do with right now, my wife is doing a great job on the vegetable garden in the backyard, and we're eating a ton of vegetables that she's growing, and we're eating a lot of food from home. But it's not right now affordable to eat in restaurants. It's a premium. But then you balance is it still worth my time even to get fast food? And we get back to the value menu that McDonald's came up with, and a lot of the franchisees were saying, wait a minute, we can't do this. This is a lost leader for us, and apparently I guess they're going through with it anyway. When you look at the core CPI year over year, we're still in territory of core CPI year over year, 3.3%. The median forecast was for 3.4%, which is where it was the previous month. But 3.3%, you're not near that target rate. And the overall CPI year over year at 3%, and it beat the median forecast of 3.1%. But the problem is that the Fed has said, look, the target is 2%. And yesterday morning, there were a number of outlets, news outlets, that were saying that were making the case, well, this is going to help to support the idea of lowering interest rates. I don't know where you get that from, because we're still not approaching that 2% mark unless the Fed changes their mind. And I don't see that happening. I don't have confidence the Fed is going to lower or raise interest rates certainly between now and Election Day. I don't see that happening. I could be wrong.
Core inflation, this is from Breitbart's Economics. Core inflation, which excludes food and energy prices, as you said, rose by a mild 0.1%. Rose.
Month over month.
Yeah. A big part of the slowdown in the core, though, was the arrival of the long-awaited disinflation in shelter prices, which rose at the slowest rate they have throughout the Biden inflation era. If we take out shelter to produce something that's called the core services inflation, prices rose 0.9%.
Ouch. Yeah, that's median forecast on the core CPI month over month was 0.2, came in at 0.1. But again, you take out shelter and it's 0.9.
0.9.
Oof.
And remember, everything too, we've said now I don't know if the core services inflation is the same thing as the
super core.
The super core.
Yeah, is that the super core?
Yeah, I don't know, because the super core usually comes out a few weeks after.
Yeah. I don't know that it is the same, but
yeah, we'll have to check on that. And the super core inflation is the things that people actually buy.
Right.
Because you can look at everything. You're always going to have, if people don't buy a product, then because of supply and demand, even if in inflationary periods, it will come down in price.
Yeah,
and so right.
there are price point issues with a lot of. I'm seeing this too anecdotally, with a lot of products that are on the shelf. I know that discount retailers like Walmart have been pretty proactive in trying to reduce the costs, especially some of those store brands. Walmart is in the middle of kind of rebranding their store brand, their Great Value brand, and that is part of the, again, battling for market share. Walmart is greatly concerned about what's going on with Amazon on a number of issues, but certainly they are also concerned about, because Amazon at this point doesn't compete with them on the grocery side as heavily as they do on other items, electronics and things like that. Amazon is just crushing it online. The e-commerce game is in fact, I think Amazon beat out Walmart recently for that and holds that top spot. I could be wrong, but the problem is that we've already been there. The consumer is looking at that, and if the spending is slowing down, you see Walgreens looking at a number of things in terms of closing their stores. The CEO of Walgreens said recently that roughly 25% of their stores are underperforming. And there's a number of things here. Again, anecdotal, but Walgreens' price point on similar items across the street in my neighborhood, it's literally across the street from Walmart, is so high. Even with their membership discount, it tends to be higher. But they're also having a problem with people shoplifting. And in certain neighborhoods, they're not going to be able to keep those stores open, and they're going to close a number of them, and that's going to happen. But there is, then you see the merger going on, other mergers going on the grocery side, and that's indicative of, again, a changing marketplace where it's getting highly competitive in the discount retailer industry. You're always battling for market share, but trying to get on top of Walmart, especially in those perishable items and those groceries, is going to be tough. They get a lot of negative feedback in terms of their produce or their meat selection or things like that. But ultimately, the price point is the leader. It's what drives people, and they're looking to save money, and they're willing to make that sacrifice if they believe it, that they're getting, well, it's not the same selection, but I'm still willing to make that sacrifice. And that's what happens. That's the game that it's always been. But if people are, and I do believe that they're really kind of locked into this idea that prices are going to continue to go up at roughly a 3% rate every year. It's not the same 2%. And this, by the way, can't be accepted as the new normal. We can't get to a point where we just resign and say, well, that's just the way it is. It is what it is. Well, no, it can be changed. It should have been changed, but it's not going to happen as long as this administration is in power.
Yeah, I'm happy that in some of the areas that you actually have, disinflation, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
In housing, what I find interesting is where I live. I live in a peninsula of a lake, and it's relatively new subdivisions over the last 20, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still building subdivisions on it. It's almost done. But one of the last stages was building a ton of apartment complexes.
Yeah, right.
I can't believe how empty the parking lots are of these apartment complexes.
Mm-hmm.
They've got sales going on. They've got, virtual tours, everything else.
Yeah.
And I started thinking to myself that I've noticed that in my neighborhood, you're not supposed to park the car at all on the street, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Not even for a party.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you have a party, it's supposed. Now, they don't really enforce it,
Mm-hmm.
but what they don't want is overnight parking. Well, there are people in my neighborhood that got 5 cars in the driveway and 3 or 4 in front of their homes.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking all their kids and extended relatives living there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more than I've ever seen in my neighborhood.
Right.
And my neighborhood's I'm right next to, like, when you come into my neighborhood, there's the one subdivision's called the Mansions.
Mm-hmm.
You go, wow, you live in the Mansions? No, I live in the street next to it.
Yeah.
But I can see the Mansions across the pond.
I live on a street that is the old money of the town that I live in, and it's all the old money, and it's like multi-million-dollar homes, and everyone says, oh, you live over by, I said, yeah, but not quite. I'm the one they're trying to get rid of.
Yeah, one time somebody, I'll never, when I moved into my house one time, I met 2 women, and they asked, what's your zip code? And I told them, and they went crazy, and that's because my zip code is the same zip code of all these houses that are on the hill that are $20 million homes.
Yeah, right.
You got rock stars and NFL rap stars, NFL stars all living up there, and they're about a mile from me. They're up in the hill, and they're like, oh, my God, how rich are you? And I went, oh, no. You're talking about the southeastern part of my zip code.
Yeah.
Not my part.
Yeah, we used to have a couple of Dallas Cowboys that lived in the neighborhood, and that was always kind of locally, it was kind of a big deal. Then one of them got their home broken into, actually, and it made news, and he moved after that. I'm always waiting for the neighbors from the other street, somebody to drive by while I'm mowing my lawn with my truck out front to stop and ask, how much do you charge?
Well, what I find interesting is Dallas-Fort Worth is growing like crazy.
Yeah.
And my expectation was these apartments are going to be filled, and most of them have been open 6 months to a year.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe how few cars are in the parking lots.
It's weird in my neighborhood. They're building these condos, and these are purchase condos, $450,000 and up, and they're selling. But what the dynamic is that, and I had a realtor tell me this 30 years ago, actually, when we moved into the neighborhood, that it's centrally located, and so it's all about location, and they're okay with that. And there's some right here that they're finishing that have apparently already been sold right outside our building. And then not too far from here, about a mile from here, they built in an old shopping center parking lot these $500,000 condos. And they're all sold. Yeah, they're all under contract.
The condos are selling, from what I can see.
Yeah.
The houses are selling.
Yeah.
In my subdivision.
It's the rent.
It's the rent. It's the apartments. And
Yeah.
and when and again, it's all anecdotal evidence, but we know that more kids are living with their parents now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's getting, I'm saying, is it getting to the point of we're reaching levels because even if, which is going to bring down rents.
Right. Yeah.
Are we reaching that level that rents are actually going to start coming down because of supply and demand?
Could be. Because a lot of the rental companies, the corporations that run those apartment buildings are cracking down on having multiple roommates under one very small space. So if you can't do that, then I guess you move in with mom and dad.
Exactly. And I'm wondering, is that what's happening in a place that's growing? I don't know of a place. I've never lived in a place that's grown as fast as Texas has.
Right.
And North Texas, which is the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've never lived in a place that's even come close to this type of growth. No. It's insane.
Yeah, it is.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. A supporting document is a document generated or received by a motor carrier in the normal course of business that can be used by law enforcement to verify a driver's logs. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, including receipts for meals, lodging, and fuel, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm reading some of the transcript of Michael Moore on CNN. He still says Biden has to go.
Yeah.
So think about this now. Now Michael Moore is part of the elite white Democrats attempting to get rid of Joe Biden because the whole race thing coming out now.
Yeah.
The whole race thing that blacks are for Biden and it's the white elite that aren't.
Right.
So now Michael Moore is part of the white elite against the candidate who is for the working man.
Ouch. Man. Wow. We're not ones to, just throw labels around all the time. They do.
I know.
But when we can do it using their playbook, it's kind of fun.
Setting the standard for America. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Well, the press conference last night, the consensus of some Democrats, pro-Biden Democrats, is he did enough to keep him in the race. Now, the people around him, he did fantastic. I mean, he just, on foreign policy, this guy just has it together. I mean, he just nailed it. A 9 out of 10. And also what came out of yesterday was the fact that George Clooney, in writing that op-ed piece, got the approval of Obama, which started the narrative now coming out of the Biden campaign that it is the elites. It is the elites that want the working man candidate out of there, the elite. would be Obama. The elite would be George Clooney. That the elitist, that he is fighting for the working man out there, and the elitist of the Democratic Party is trying to keep him from becoming president of the United States. Which then takes us to this one, because it makes Michael Moore an elitist. Liberal documentary filmmaker Michael Moore said Thursday on CNN that voters saw something wrong with President Joe Biden during the presidential debate. The anchor, Abby Phillips, said, "My next guest has called Biden's debate performance, quote, the cruelest form of elder abuse I have ever been forced to watch." Joining me now, Oscar-winning filmmaker Michael Moore. Michael, do you still feel that way? Is this still elder abuse after what you saw in the press conference tonight? Moore, yes. I believe if you love Joe Biden, you should have never sent them out there on the stage that night. I mean, imagine if it was your father, your grandfather, whatever. It was heartbreaking to watch a person freeze like that. It wasn't about the gaps or the flubs or whatever. It was clearly something was wrong. If you have parents and grandparents, you know that. You've seen what the decline looks like. And you can't, as George Clooney said yesterday, tell 51 million people who watched what we saw that night that didn't happen. It happened, and you can't unsee it. Then Phillips said, I don't know if you have quibbles with the argument that he had a cold. Let's say he had a cold and was not feeling well on debate night. How much do they weigh that versus the Joe Biden who, on the issues that matter, can answer the questions? Okay, maybe, but we're not stupid. Please don't tell us things like he had a cold or it was jet lag or any of this stuff. Don't lie to us on that. The fibbing is from the other side, of course. That's the Trump way of doing things. Don't do that to us. We know what we saw, that something's wrong. Tell us what's wrong. If anything's wrong, there's nothing wrong with asking that question. So Michael Moore now is part of the elitist Democrat cartel.
Yeah. Yeah. He's an oppressor now.
He's an oppressor. Yeah. He's an oppressor of the hero of working people.
Yeah.
Wow. If you just tuned in right now, one thing we have said is this is the beginning, from what we can see, of the Biden-Obama civil war in the Democratic Party. When's it going to end? I don't know. But on Obama's side, you got the New York Times, you've got the Washington Post. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do you still have Morning Joe? I don't know what his opinion is. It's now Friday. I don't know how much.
It's not his opinion. It's hers that counts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
but she'll tell him what his opinion is.
Yeah, but I don't think she agreed with him when he said, you can't handle the truth.
Well, maybe that's why we haven't heard from
him. Or did she? No, she did agree with him on that one.
He might be grounded.
Yeah, she did agree with him on that one.
It's because what do? You're not going to get the 25th Amendment thing done. You keep pressuring. And you need it to happen in time to gain momentum for another candidate prior to their big convention in August. We still haven't heard. Are they going to do the virtual nomination thing? Is that still going to happen between now and August 1st?
Well,
I think they said sometime between mid-July and the first week of August. So we're getting down to the wire on that.
I think by the 21st. Last one, let me see. Okay, Democrats face uncertainty around roll call timing. On June 24th, DNC moves ahead on virtual roll call for Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And let me see. Let me just read this here this was from Wednesday. The party announced May 28th it would hold a virtual roll call ahead of the Democratic National Convention to comply with Ohio law. That decision, made well before the June 27th debate, could now help tamp down efforts to convince the president to step aside amid questions of whether President Joe Biden will remain the Democratic nominee. There's also uncertainty about when delegates will vote to make the nomination official. By the way, that urgency is gone now. It may not be gone for Biden, but it's gone for a significant portion of Democrats.
Yeah.
As of now, it's not.
Yeah.
As of now, it's not clear how long delegates, including the nearly 4,000 pledged to Biden, will have to vote for the nominee, or when the process will start or end. According to the convention nomination talking points circulated by the DNC last week, the electronic roll call will happen by August 7th now, but no decisions have been made on the format or the timing of the vote. A DNC spokesperson told CNN that no date has been decided for the electronic roll call. The DNC's convention rules panel is expected to meet July 19th, and its credentials committee is expected to meet on July 21st. Both meetings will be streamed on the committee's YouTube page. Originally, the electronic roll call was meant to avoid further ballot access issues for the president. Earlier this year, the office of Ohio's Republican Secretary of State informed Democrats that their party convention, which will take place August 19th to the 22nd, would fall after the state's deadline for submitting the party's official nominee. After weighing possible options, including litigation, the DNC opted to hold a virtual roll call vote. The committee stuck with the plan even after Ohio enacted a law that would push back the deadline to after the convention. So who knows? I don't think anybody knows because nobody knows where this is going to end.
Well, here's the question, because it came out yesterday, the story, the New York Times, ABC News, both had it. The embattled Biden campaign tests Kamala Harris's strength versus Trump. That the campaign is spending money to do research, do a survey as to what it would be like with Vice President Kamala Harris on the ticket at the top versus Donald Trump. And as they point out in the New York Times here, they did not specify why the survey was being taken, why it was being conducted, or what the campaign planned to do with the results. It could be read as the team gathering information to present a case to the president that his path forward is slim, so his own campaign is spending the money to show him he can't win. I don't buy that.
I could whisper in the Biden voice saying, no, that's not it.
I don't think that's happening.
Yeah.
Or, as they write in the New York Times, to argue that Mr. Biden is still the strongest standard bearer for his party. And it's the latter, not the former. Mm-hmm. And otherwise, his own campaign's not spending money. They're spending money to tell him he's not. His own campaign's spending money to tell him, you're horrible. You're not the guy. No. They're trying to find it. And other polls back that up. We already know that he polls better. And if they find that that's the case, then they're going to use that, and they're going to show that to everybody, I guess, and at least in their party, and say, hey, I'm the guy. Well, the problem is that you're taking that to your party and saying, I'm the best you got. That's what you're saying to them. That's what they hear. That's the translation. For the ones who don't want you to be the guy, you're saying, sorry, I'm the best you got. And you spent money to do it. Ouch. I don't know. I don't see any way you pressure him to the point of standing down. Every time he's in front of a mic, I'm not going anywhere. I'm running. I don't, and that would be Obama's only game. If it is true that the Obama camp is working against the Biden camp, trying to do everything they can to make sure that Biden is not the guy at the top of the ticket, if that is true, I don't think they're going to have success in doing that because they're not going to succeed in convincing Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, and the always defiant Joe Biden to do that.
Well, I think that, and when Chris Coons said it the other day, we went, wow, he's co-chair of the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
When he came out and said, look, you can't set the bar too high for Biden. He stutters.
Right.
And Biden himself came out and said, that his staff is having him do too many things. He needs to cut back.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, there isn't a president that's taken as many lids or as vacations as he has.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that's part of what's going on with the Democrats that support him is the lower bar is totally acceptable to them.
Yeah, right.
And when Biden talks about, you need to have a lower bar for the president, now he didn't say it that way, but by stating he needs to cut back his schedule because he's too busy and his wife's furious about how busy he is, excuse my language, but you're the damn president of the United States.
Mm.
You're expected to be alert when you get woken up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
You've got to be alert. You have the cup of coffee, boom, you're going.
Quite frankly, you're expected to be alert when you get awakened at 3 p.m.
Yeah. And when you had the when you had the now cabinet members, Chuck Todd coming out and saying, yeah, a senior cabinet member told him 2 years ago, Biden can't run again. They've known it.
Yeah.
And I also think that Republicans are just planting the seeds right now, as they've done the last couple of days, by stating they all knew. They all lied to you.
Yeah.
Kamala lied to you. Everybody's lied to you.
Yep.
The media lied to you.
Yep.
The Democrats have lied to you. The members of Congress have lied to you. The Senate has lied to you. They've all lied.
Well, we know that George Clooney admitted to lying at least over the last few weeks.
Yeah, because he knew.
His words, not ours.
Right. He knew.
It is an unfixable situation. And quite honestly, if I were advising the Democratic National Party and all the Democrats in one room, give it up. Biden's your guy. You're not going to convince him to step down. As bad as it is, it's not going to get any better. You just wait it out. Get out the super glue and the duct tape. Do whatever you've got to do, but you got 4 more months of this, and then it's over, if Trump wins.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. There it is, the Daily Beast. I'm looking at Eric here. Biden allies believe Obama is plotting Joe's ouster after Clooney op-ed. This changes everything because it's like, well, who's on one side, who's on another? Well, you really can't. You don't have the personalities there. All of a sudden, you've got the two personalities. You've got Obama, and you got Obama with George Clooney standing next to him, and Michael Moore representing the elite of the Democratic Party, and old Joe, who's a working president, working for the working people of America. That's how the Biden campaign is attempting to promote this and will continue to promote this through the weekend and I believe next week. Now you've got two distinct personalities involved in it. That's just going to amp up the level of rhetoric in what I call the Democratic Civil War going on right now.
I don't see an end to Joe Biden's defiance. I don't see him being pressured by Obama or anybody else to step down. I don't. So it at some point has to end, but when will that be?
How?
Where?
How do you back off?
I don't know. If you're not going to win it, I guess.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.